It's never too late to talk about it.
Or we might talk about pulling out.
Sweet and warm, that's me.
That's
me.
Yo, what it do? This is your boy Miguel, and this is Common Conversations. We are back with episode 2 of Let's Talk Sex, right? So I got my crew with me. We're gonna top it up about a little bit of everything. And as y'all know, typically on our show, anything goes, right? And this is all about pleasure, safety, intimacy. But yeah, first I wanna introduce the fam.
Thank you for that intro into me speaking.
And if we cut and edit, this would be the time.
Wait, can we?
And now we chasing flies.
Yeah.
It was originally on your leg. And
It
I was about
was,
to
it's all
I was about to
over.
interrupt the whole production. Get that off. Okay. My name is Amira, y'all, of the Amira Show, okay, in which we focused on topics around sex and sex work, liberation and empowerment of women and those in the alphabet community. I'm a bisexual, demisexual, and poly woman, and I love talking about sex.
Let's get it.
Let's get it then.
Riece?
My name is Riece, and I am a PhD student in the School of Public Health. I research pleasure. I am also a part of the alphabet community, and I love talking to people about ways that they can introduce pleasure, not just in sex, but in all areas of their life.
Welcome, Riece. It's like a whole, like, we need to have, like,
Did you just say welcome?
Yeah, like we gotta applaud each other.
I mean, it was a moment. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
After
Thanks
every
for
single
the
person.
applause.
We can do that. I'm gonna throw the applause in the edit,
Thank
and we'll
you.
just boom, done.
That would be amazing.
All right.
Hi,
We got
y'all.
features.
I'm Dr. Ashley Anderson. I'm a women's health nurse practitioner. I have worked as such for the last 15 years. I have a women's health practice here in Louisville, Kentucky called Athena Health and Wellness, where we take care of all the peoples. And my doctoral research was surrounding self-efficacy as it relates to contraception and teenage girls using birth control. So I'm super excited to be here and happy to have this conversation with you lovely people.
Oh, welcome.
She called it. I feel a vibe. She called it.
Insert some
Thank
applause.
you.
She said
It's
lovely.
a
I feel so
whole
lovely.
moment.
It's a whole moment. It makes the vibe better, right? It gives me all. If I was white, I'd be rosy cheeked right now.
Ooh,
You're
especially with
almost
them.
there.
I'm almost white, almost rosy
Almost
cheeked.
white.
It's the light, right? That's okay.
Team light skin.
We got jokes.
If you're listening in.
Yeah, right. If you're listening, right, you got to go to YouTube to actually see. So hold on. So behind curtains, right? Y'all, everybody was getting their makeup did, and y'all came up with stripper names. So if y'all were gonna if y'all was gonna be in the thing, doing the thing, and somebody had dollars.
We didn't come up with the stripper names. They chose us.
Our
So
names
you don't
show
come up
up.
with a stripper name; they choose you.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
Let's get it. What's your stripper name?
Mine is Spicy Brown. Shout out to Tamika because she got the foundation on point, and that's what it's called. And therefore, it chose me. I didn't choose this line.
You are a spicy
You are
brown,
spicy
though.
brown.
Like you are a spicy brown.
Thank you. That's close to Foxy Brown, so I'll take it.
Ashley.
Oh, so
You see,
I'm
she was
a
surprised,
blend.
right?
I'm a
Right, 'cause
blend.
she's
You're a blend.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that.
She's special.
You're dynamic.
You're a blend.
That's right.
Yeah,
Dynamic duo.
You are dynamic.
So we shortened the blend to
Okay.
toasted cappuccino.
Toasted cappuccino. All right.
Can you
Don't
just
you
imagine
forget
it? Like,
Spicy.
we need a stripper pole
Sweet.
in a coffee shop.
There's 2 poles over here. They ain't stripper poles, but you know.
Yeah, I can't climb
And
that.
and our caterer owns a coffee shop. I bet you she let us put a stripper pole in there.
Shout out
And we
to
could do a whole
Latoya.
stripper
Shout
pole
out
and
to the
stripper pole and cafe.
Listen,
I don't
maybe not
think
a
she's
permanent
going for that.
installation. Yeah. Okay. We drag it
Reece,
in.
what's your name, girl?
My name was Toffee, so I don't even think I've ever had toffee. What's
Yeah.
toffee taste
Toffee
like?
is good.
it's
So your
I don't know,
homework
it's
when
kinda like
we
a
are
generic
done today
caramel
is
thing.
for you to go get
Some toffee?
like Cracker Jack, popcorn, or something toffee. Like you just
Toffee.
gotta go get it. It's
So it's-
sweet and it's warm. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
it's sweet and warm. That's
Yeah.
me.
Kinda like
That's
sex.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't see a lot of toffee until like fall and stuff like that. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
that's your
fall is
homework.
here.
It's my season. It's my
time.
season.
It's your time to
Yes,
shine.
What's
girl.
your stripper name?
I didn't have one.
You didn't
Oh,
get
you-
chosen for this
I was
one.
not chosen.
You don't have
I don't
one.
get to be a stripper.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm devastated.
Hey.
No Magic Mike in my future.
Damn, I'm so sorry. You
Well,
can't
we're
choose
doing
your own
Can't all
path.
be God's
but
favorite. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm more of a I'm more of a producer and director. So
That's
y'all strip,
fair.
I'll film it.
I
Okay.
Now we're creating OnlyFans pages.
And then I went
We got a good business model.
With the subscription.
With a subscription, right? The subscription model is real.
and 10%.
And 10, that's management.
Oh, so give me more.
Okay, we got to raise the vibe, right? How we make money. So, okay, real talk. So we're going to sit down and our last episode we mentioned intimacy. And so I'm curious, like in the sense of relationships to people, what does intimacy mean to you? Because I believe it means like so many different things to different folks. And I hear a lot of times where they're like, well, men can't be intimate, and women say that, and I don't know what it's like in the alphabet world, right?
It's better.
It's better. Okay, intimacy is better.
Come join the dark side.
Oh, let's go. I like menage a trois. No, I'm just saying.
30 plus.
Oh, 30 plus. I'm sorry. Yes, I have to stay in the 30 plus adult range.
The reason I say that it's better is especially if you aren't in that community, like this is a foreign concept because being bisexual is really interesting because you get to see both communities. Like you're like standing in the middle of this one this community that's really sex positive and really
affirming
and communicative.
Yes.
And then you're in the middle of this other community where if you're femme or you're like femme presenting, it isn't. And
or in a
so
straight
when I say it's
relationship.
better, I feel like in the LGBTQ community, there are more conversations had. And sex is a lot less taboo because you start your life with this taboo
We're already
topic.
oppressed and looking for each other to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Like, please, like, I don't know. Do you know? Oh, you do know. Let's talk about it.
And
So
it's
maybe go
open.
on. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, what you're saying is like, people seek out those conversations because you can be more open about it. Like, do you
There's
feel
more
like you
freedom.
get that same...
Yeah.
There's more freedom to be honest and open
Right.
about those things, you feel like.
Right, because we're already different. I mean, we're already living an alternative sexual lifestyle. So
according
moving
to
on from that,
the masses. So maybe that touches more on safety
It's like, y'all done made him get up.
I know, right? I'm
How do you get
here.
ready? So maybe that touches on safety first. We were kind of discussing a little bit like how to come into this conversation, and maybe the tier of our topics should start with safety.
Yeah.
Because searching for those conversations and that kind of safe space to explore and to have those questions and to connect with other people on those levels where you don't feel safe outside of, not saying that's the only community like with that kind of, I don't know, but maybe that would be best going into intimacy and into pleasure because that's where it starts or it should start, right? But we don't usually start with like, we've been talking about consent a lot, like what consent looks like, what boundaries look like, what are my own boundaries? So I guess there's boundaries all around. Oh, your card says love yourself.
I felt like if I was going to have it facing this way, it should say something. But
That's smart.
I mean, what you're saying is like creating spaces for vulnerability.
Yeah.
So would you say that you don't think, can you have intimacy without feeling safe?
I don't think so. I mean, I think to be intimate, you have to be open and you have to be vulnerable, and it's hard to do when you don't feel safe.
That alone, it takes.
So how do we? So and I think it's across the board, right? Because we men want safety as well, right? We want to be able to. I mean, because there's stigma. Women expect men to be a certain way. Right?
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Like I'm more of an effeminate man sometimes in terms of my female. I exist in a world of female energy. At least that's what some of my guy friends.
We all have both energies.
Yeah. And so, but then there's that fear of if I act like this, then I'm gonna be disconnected, or she's not gonna like me, or or society is gonna assume I'm. So how do we build that safe space?
Because you bring up a really good point, and I feel like kind of what you're talking about is the freedom to be who you are and to be loved for being exactly who you are, not having to present in one way or another, but to be wholly Miguel. Like someone should accept all of you, and I think that is probably the most beautiful thing about being open and honest about you. Then you can show up as your true self, and then people can love you or not. And then it's not like you spend a decade living your life faking and then reach this point of no
Yeah.
return. You know what I mean? It's like
then
you
you're in therapy.
should,
We all in therapy now.
Everybody needs therapy. But you talked about having fear, and if you are experiencing fear, then you're not in a place of safety. Because when you are in a safe space, there isn't the fear. But I love what you're saying about like just that acceptance of yourself, because that is something that happens in the LGBTQ community that does push those conversations along when it comes to talking about vulnerable topics. Like you have to accept yourself as living this alternative lifestyle from what mainstream society says. And once you accept yourself, you can start accepting others, and you can be really honest about how that shows up in your life.
Agreed.
Got you.
Absolutely.
So, go.
Do you feel like you have found that now? Because you talked about like, as a man, I have to show up in this way, but then you also seem like you're accepting of that like feminine energy that you have as a man too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's crazy because when I was younger, they'd be like, oh, he's metrosexual. And I used to be like, metrosexual is gay. I'm not gay. And then I was like, okay.
Which it isn't.
Right.
Just not.
The conclusion. Yeah.
They used to say that about Usher all the time.
Yeah. Then I realized,
Usher
like,
is
That man got more
metrosexual.
swag than anybody.
Yes,
so
I'm
y'all better
like,
hop off his nuts.
Honestly,
Or
I feel
hop
like
on
it was
them,
like
actually.
it was like a term that was like a man that was extremely well groomed and cared about his appearance and like really well put together. So I feel like I hope people
Pretty
don't
boy?
still say that. Yeah, I feel like it was literally the term that was used for pretty boys.
It was. And so, I mean, I after a minute, I embraced it because I realized, like I said, I had both my ears pierced. I had 2 earrings in both ears before most people
Oh,
had
you was
their-
doing the most.
Yeah, and I was fly. But I also was a model when I was a kid, right? So I lived in 2 worlds. I lived in the streets and then I lived in the suburbs, and so I wore them well. But in the streets, I was a pretty boy, and in the other side, I was supposed to be. And so over time, like there was a struggle at first, right? Because there were women that I liked, and then they was like, yeah, he ain't hard enough. And then I was like, yeah, I probably won't, but I'll still whip your ass. You know what I mean? But then it was like, okay, I don't want to be that dude. And so over time, I figured out, and then I realized like sexually, when I began to really enjoy sex and pleasure, it was really about the time that I could voice what I wanted and what I was really interested in. But that took time too, because I realized that everybody has to be on this journey together, right? And so how do you, that safety you kind of fall into, together. I think. And I think that's the intimate part, right? Because intimacy for me was about us being able to talk, right? And so it's not talking about sex, but talking about who we are as people, what our experiences are. And then we can get into those likes and dislikes. But I learned the women that I've been with they were already in a discovery mode, right? They were discovering themselves, they were discovering their bodies. And so when we got together, it became that too. And then we could find that space. But because we knew each other, it just, So I would say most women made me more comfortable about who I am and what I like, what I don't like, and then that explore world. So
Of course.
Yeah.
And I feel that's because, of course,
Like, duh.
we're already oppressed as an entire being, so we get it and understand. We understand how it feels to not be able to explore and then finally break out of that to explore and accept other people for their differences and what they discover through
The
exploring.
natural nurturing that we have.
The natural nurturing. Holy shit.
Write that down.
I'm not about it. I'm just saying, of
I'm
course.
writing that down.
Yeah.
Like I talked to
nurturing.
this one dude recently, and he doesn't identify as being gay or homosexual or anything like that, but he does love anal sex. For him, it's pleasurable, and I'm just like, this is a conversation we need to have because everyone enjoys taking a shit. So you can't help the body that you have, and you can't. I'm sorry, I just put it like that because
all
people.
of us, do we all? That's a whole nother conversation. Okay, never mind.
It's a routine.
The pleasure that I feel, or the natural pleasure that I feel people experience when it comes through anal play or something like that, that's not only like extended to just like women or femme presenting folks, you know what I'm saying? And on that tip of safety, hopefully leading into the intimacy, like he doesn't share that with anybody because he's afraid of whatever backlash and things that he'll get from his boys or his dad or people at large. And it just sucks because, again, learning about our bodies and the functions of and the pleasures of could really, like, I feel, release and free a lot of folks. And when you said about us coming together, as a community, like all of us, we got to come together to agree on, I guess, like you said, the unique things about people, but also some of the standard things that people want to explore and be safe in expressing. Does that make any sense right
It
there?
does. I think you
That's
touched
where I
on
was
his,
going.
like, fear, which again goes back to there's no safety here. But what's interesting is that he felt comfortable enough to share it with you. So
I'm a
how
woman.
did you build that intimacy with that person? Like, what was it about you that made you a safe place? And that's what you have to think about when you think about intimacy. Like,
True.
In what ways in this relationship am I making this a safe place so that somebody can be vulnerable and share those things with me that are
Because, I mean,
pleasurable?
truly, sex is a vulnerable space.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think whether we're talking about safety from a space of being able to articulate the things that you like and don't like in the bedroom, whether it's talking about things like testing, like I feel like that's a whole level of safety that we have to talk about.
Right.
Because
Oh, you are so
when
right.
I talk to my patients and they're like, I don't know how to ask him to get tested or her to get tested. Okay, well, if you're not comfortable having that conversation, you shouldn't be comfortable sharing your body. Because that, we need to not do the, I didn't know you had.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about that before, because then safety could look different. You know what I mean? Like, if you know one person is positive for something and you're not, like, how do we manage this relationship sexually to
Right.
keep everybody
'Cause it doesn't
safe?
have to end.
It doesn't have to.
Not
Yeah,
at all.
there's
We just-
definitely ways around it.
And it's so backwards. Like, we don't want to talk about STDs or getting checkups or anything like that.
Listen,
But we want
I
to shame
need
you
to
the
see papers.
moment. Like, you know.
Yeah.
You want to see paper?
I think that's
Everybody
what it
should.
is.
Show
Should
me
be
the
that
car.
way.
It's the
Period.
fear. It's the fear that surrounds, like, oh, I'll never have sex with somebody if I have this, or like,
It's the
my
stigma.
sexual life is over. Yeah, the stigma and the fear. But I agree with you. I'm like, if you can't have the conversation about someone just getting tested, then how are you advocating for your boundaries once you're actually having sex in the bedroom?
So you're essentially starting off your entire relationship on a lie.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like you're lying by omission or whatever. Like if you cannot say, hey, I feel like this is going in a direction. When's the last time you got tested? If you can't have that conversation with a person,
Yeah.
you do not need to put your hands on.
I'm like, hey, mom, I'm
And
going
that
tomorrow.
person-
How long does it take you to get it back?
Well, you can come to Athena and we'll get you together.
Those banners at the bottom so that they can book an
Call
appointment.
502.
Make sure you
QR
put that
code.
at the bottom. Thank you. As a transparent moment, I actually do have. I thought it was a fly on me. Oh, it's right there. I have
Look, squirrel.
squirrel.
Shout out to the fly.
So I actually do. I have contracted genital herpes, and I was in a place of like, where do you go from here? It's been suppressed, so I didn't even know like there are medications and things out there to actually like assist you in those areas, at least so you first aren't like suffering in any way. Because I definitely was only thinking about everyone else outside of me, but not processing
Like a woman?
Am I? Yeah.
Thinking of everyone else inside of you?
Yeah, am I a bad person? When is too soon to let this person know? When is it too late? And it was weird because I definitely had to go through trial periods of, let me just tell them off the bat, and then let me just kind of wait. And then, it was really weird, but thinking about that conversation of being open about being tested and status when it comes to your sexual health and stuff, that definitely is a part of safety conversations because, of course, you need to know so you can make an educated decision for yourself.
Yeah.
Whether you want to even be intimate with this person or not, which is not a bad thing at all. Because I used to think like, oh God.
You know,
But
I think talking about it too opens up the conversation for other people to talk about it. My first experience.
It creates intimacy.
It does.
There you go. Yes.
And even in not just like partnership, like relationships in intimacy, but like even with your casual partner.
Yes.
So when I was in college, I slept with a guy and got, I can't even remember, so long ago, but chlamydia or gonorrhea, one of the ones. And I had never got an STI before, but I knew that I was supposed to tell my partners and tell my partner, even though this is not a boyfriend, it's not like just a casual hookup, but it happened. And I knew exactly who it was. And I had to contact them for the first time, and I called my aunt and I was like, has this ever happened to you before? And like, what do I say? And they're just like, just be honest and say it. So I was too afraid to do it over the phone. I reached out to him on Facebook, and this is my Facebook message, DM. And I was just like, hey, I just want to let you know, I went to the clinic. I got this, I already got treated, but you might want to go get treated, you know, because I don't know if you have other partners. We were not in a relationship.
Yeah.
He was so grateful and thankful that I said something because he truly just did not know that he had it. And it wasn't like he did it on purpose. And then he went and got treated. I ran into him years later and he was like, I just want to say that, like, I still remember that you told me that, and I'm so
love that.
grateful that you could be honest with me. So I was like, from that point on, like, this is not something scary, and people actually are grateful to hear and know that this is happening.
I'll tell you, I told a dude, and he acted like I was handicapped. And he thought we was gonna have a future. He was like, how are we gonna have kids? I was like, first of all, what? Second, I'm not like fucked. Like, the baby will be fine. Just weird. So I'm happy about that. And I feel the more we normalize, because shit happens.
It does.
Shit happens.
It happens,
you know?
all the time.
But if we have these conversations and like kill this taboo over sex, not just the light, fun side of it,
all of the
but also the dark side, all of it.
Yeah.
I think that it would definitely lead.
I mean, it comes down to having healthier lives, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, you know,
all around,
sex as a
mental
practice
health
has to
too.
be healthy, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I said, this is a spiritual thing for me, right? This is where our souls connect and our bodies go through this journey. And, you know, I feel like, you know, we have to be healthy in doing it. Now, I've also been married for 21 years, so I haven't had a partner and other partner in God a long time.
Okay, 21.
You know what I mean? So...
Your marriage can drink now.
True story.
Your marriage can buy a drink at the bar.
Salud.
So I mean, I think we have to talk about that. But even people who are married have to talk about it. I think people who are single have to talk about it because in marriages, people cheat, right? People have or I don't even want to use the word cheat. People have agreements within their marriage, and so they end up having additional partners and things like that.
That's not cheating.
There's a difference.
There's definitely a difference.
But that's why I said I retract.
But people do cheat.
But people also cheat.
There's also cheat.
How do the
Yeah.
conversations around intimacy change when you're married? So like we've been kind of talking about, I've never been married, so just saying, I wonder what it looks like when you're married, because you don't stop talking about it, right?
You shouldn't.
Yeah.
You don't. It evolves, right? Because people evolve. I think marriages sometimes, I don't know, I have intimate relationships with a little bit of everybody. So even my guy friends, we have really super engaged, intimate relationships and the things that we talk about. But with marriage, I think as we as people evolve in a relationship, it changes, and sometimes you can disconnect and then reconnect. I think as you grow older, like who I was when I was 18 and 19, with my girlfriend who's now my wife, you know, who I was at 20, who I was at 30 is different. Sexually, we've evolved, right? And so even in that space, I would like to say we're probably more free in the last 10 or 15 years than we were prior, right? So there was a level of intimacy that we had not arrived at.
Yeah.
Right, to explore who we were becoming or who we were evolving each other into in this space, right? But it changes. It's something you have to work at. And then as you get like talking about healthy sex life, right? Women go through menopause, right? Men, I'm hearing all these stats where between, unfortunately.
Just use lube.
True story.
Good. Just use
You know, men face ED through a variety of things at the age of 40 on up, right? Dietary things kind of change the way men and women taste. when we're talking about oral sex. So, I mean, I think you have to talk about these things. It's a force, definitely, if you're going to continue to have strong and build relationships. I mean, yeah,
so
it's a wild life.
as you evolve.
Yeah, truly.
Changes as you
You have to work on it.
And being open with that.
Yeah.
I've definitely swallowed my partner and been like, bro, you need more broccoli or some shit. Like, what's happening here?
Back on the what is it, asparagus?
Yeah, this is a check-in, okay? And just here to let you know.
But I mean, as we talked, intimacy, I think in terms of being vulnerable is also, that's a brave space, not just a safe space, but being brave to say, hey, I want something different, or I'm changing into this, and how do we talk this? And I think the other part is, how do you be there for someone else other than yourself, right? Remove your want and desires, and be there just for what they're going through. And that's hard. That's hard, married or unmarried, I gotta imagine. And so it's neat. Like even you take intimacy right out of the sex realm and having an intimate relationship with my daughter, right? That's a unique space that's evolving, right?
Yeah.
Because who I am as dad yesterday and who she wants me to be as dad today, we have to learn that, right? And if we as friends or people, we sit in a corner and make assumptions, we lose that opportunity, right? And then we create unsafe environments.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a thing. It's a real thing, But I love intimacy. So
let's talk about
sharing.
sex stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you start your intimacy with yourself? Like, how intimate are you with yourself?
Oh, I love
That's
me.
a great question. I think I'm still discovered. That was probably to Miguel, but
You can't take it.
skip him.
I mean, to anyone, because I'm wondering if it just starts with you.
I'm still figuring it out. I think it does. I think it does. You live with yourself and you grow with yourself, like you and your being and your vessel and your temple. I do feel it all starts within you, which is why I'm working so hard on shadow work, and I'm in therapy, and I'm masturbating more and doing all these things. You know what I'm saying? So I do. Listen. Masturbation connoisseur right here. Rose, whoever makes the roses, go ahead and sponsor this video.
So this may not be a question for y'all. So you like masturbate more. So I do want to tackle the anal conversation about your friend, because I have a question about that. But masturbate more. So it technically can be unhealthy for men to masturbate too much.
Can it?
Yes.
Can it?
Says who?
I'm learning.
Who wrote that? The Catholic Church.
We got a whole laptop. I'll Google this shit right now.
Who wrote that?
That's at least that's what I'm hearing, right?
That's
Because
what I'm hearing.
it can harm intimacy with your mate, right? Because right, it's that's what I'm hearing. I was studying. I was looking
write in the comments if
I was looking at a bunch of other
masturbation has
stuff.
harmed intimacy with your mate.
I said too much.
What's too much?
Yeah,
That's a good question, because she like masturbate
that's a
more.
good question.
And so like, what's
She's
too
going-
much?
Too much. You have to learn your body and learn yourself. What someone's too much is maybe not somebody else's enough.
Okay.
And so that's why I was wondering, who's setting the standard? Who is saying
And who
you
told
have to
them
do
to
it
do that
this much,
shit?
and if you're not doing it this much, you have to do it more. Masturbate more is more about learn yourself more, because you have to start touching yourself to learn how much is too much. Mm-hmm. And then if it is affecting something, you don't know that until you know it. You don't know what you know until you know.
Yeah.
But it's learning, what are my levels of, because what is enough for me might be too much for you or too little for you.
Okay.
But that intimacy of learning yourself, that's what I was wondering about. Does it start with you?
Yeah.
Because
I really agree.
you
I really
create
think
a
it
safe
does.
space for yourself.
Yeah, because it's until you are aware fully of who you are, what you need, what your desires are, what you would like to explore, you can't articulate that.
Yeah.
You can be vulnerable, but it's not complete, I guess, if you're not really in touch with you. So I feel like that's on all levels.
And then how can you really truly connect and
with
touch with
someone
other people?
else if you don't
Yeah,
know
how
you?
do you, if you don't know what intimacy looks like for yourself, which is same for masturbation, if you don't know what pleasure looks like for yourself, how do you then tell somebody else what you need,
What you
or
enjoy,
what that should look like? And how do you make an open
Exactly.
space for somebody else to tell you what you need?
And also be comfortable with evolving. Like you mentioned, like in your relationship, as you change, as you age, as hormones shift, things are going to be different. You're going to maybe one time enjoy something that you used to not, and vice versa. And you have to be comfortable enough to be like, all right, well, you used to do this, and it was, and
now you don't like that no more. What happened? Bitch,
so let me
it ties into your libido too, because
once
you start like getting intimate with yourself, you learn how you want to be satisfied, and then you can talk to your partner, and it might be different. Like your partner might not want to be satisfied as often as you want to be satisfied, and that's when you can say masturbation actually helps our intimacy and helps our relationship, because I'm not badgering you to please me in the times that you don't want to.
Your partner get jealous of you masturbating or having toys and all that?
I have never had a partner that was. I've never had a partner that has said that they are not okay with masturbation, like me masturbating.
They should want to watch. Can I watch?
And I'm like, no, this is me being intimate with myself. I like to have my me time.
Well, now question,
just
right? So is there an opportunity, or do you extend that to your partner where there is a mutual masturbation in that relationship and you're vibing in that together?
I love that. I love that people can do that together.
Okay.
I have not accomplished that yet.
No?
To me, because I feel I came so late in the game.
Yeah, grad school is pretty late in the game.
Yeah. Late in the game. I think I was 22, 23. I don't know.
Wow.
Late.
Wow.
Because of that, I'm so selfish with it. That's my time. I need at least 2 hours. Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. My partner do be like, can we no.
Sit outside the door like a dog.
That's fine with me. You can lay next to me.
I'm dead.
But it just, I enjoyed it so much. I got to a point where, like, if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. I need that release. I need that connection with myself. I need to meditate. I need to ground. It's magic, manifest. So right now, it's all mine, and that's my situation, and that's my self-care, my time to myself. We may get somewhere, because I'm a freak, but just right now, like, that's like my rose, like that. That's us. Like I can't. And I don't just rely on the rose. We was talking about the other natural toys that we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Use them whatever you need to.
The free toys.
Yes, the free toys. Which
the free toys.
It's just with those it takes longer, which is why I need 2 hours. But I don't even remember the question, other than I need it all to myself.
Like,
I don't want to share it yet.
I think we're talking about, like, it can be that personal, private, experience, but it could also, you could bring a partner into masturbation as well.
I definitely feel you should. I think that shit's sexy.
Yeah.
I'm just not there yet.
He's not there yet. I got you.
And speaking of, I found Prime Men's Medical Center website.
She Google, like she literally then went over to Google.
No, really.
This all sounds like bullshit. Physical problems when masturbating, friction burn, and penile fracture. Well, are you grabbing the fuck out of your dick? Or are you not using lube? I don't know.
Yes, you gotta have a safe place. You gotta have some lube. You gotta have KY. And so
that's why I think this is stupid. They're relaying this to masturbating too much.
Well, yeah, because sometimes men don't know how to treat themselves, right? They don't know how to care for them. Think about if you're with a mate who can't treat you. Imagine what they're doing to themselves.
This is true. No, this is true because one of my friends, bless his fucking soul, thought it was totally normal to use Vaseline for anal sex. So you're right. We gotta know what's going on. What are you doing?
There's a whole education piece that has to come in there, but you were gonna say something.
I don't remember what it was.
I was
gonna say that. I was gonna say that I've heard that watching porn can affect your intimacy with your partner, and maybe people are tying in. When I watch porn, I masturbate. So masturbation can affect intimacy with your partner. But maybe it's not the act of masturbation.
So it's a combination of
something else that you're using to masturbate that's affecting the intimacy with your partner. I think porn is awesome, but I do also think that it can affect intimacy with your partner if you and your partner are not on the same page about what that sexual encounter should look like.
Yeah, those agreements, what's realistic for us.
Yeah.
And that's back to the safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So is intimacy only sex? Because I feel like we started talking about intimacy and we went deep dive into sex.
Because that's what we do, right?
That is what we do, clearly. But
it is, and it's the conversations and stuff, too.
What does intimacy look like to you?
In-depth conversations, flirting, safe and unsafe flirting, right? So you can flirt with people and not lead into sex.
What's unsafe?
What's unsafe flirting?
You wasn't just gonna skate by that.
When somebody tells you to stop, no, don't. That's unsafe flirting. Right?
You continue to
So like there's touches, like men are taught, well, I don't know if all men are taught this, but when I was in corporate America, we used to go through all this sexual harassment. So we used to study body mannerisms and movements. And so there's different places where you can touch a person that creates different, like, so there's...
That's not unsafe flirting, that's
on
just
the back.
sexual harassment.
Well, it may not be, right? So it's also dominant positioning, right? How people dominate over other folks, right? So you can put your hand in a certain place that says this is a safe, this is sexy, or this is a sexual, or this is a dominating position, like I'm over you, you're beneath me. So there's different ways to touch people, shake hands, the way you shift your hand up, down, left, right, a different position, you put your hand on someone's back. Both men and women do it to each other. Men do it to men as well. And so sometimes it's not about sex. It's really about domination.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that I know that was a space, but
you're saying is it's the conversations and also the touches and the flirting.
Yeah, it's across the board. I think also it's super vulnerable, right? So I'll talk about it in a non-sexual way, because again, not being gay, my guy friends, we sit down and talk about one of my buddies was sexually molested, right? Who ended up marrying the woman who molested him, which is amazing. Just that conversation alone. But that's a level of intimacy, right? That's a level of vulnerability that we can share in a room and know that that person's not going to be judged based on what they're sharing. And they want to let it out. They want to tell somebody, regardless of their age, and know that when they walk out the room, they're not going to feel worse, because they're about to relive something, right? And that's something that's not often talked. But I have the same conversations with some of my female friends, my women friends. You know, whether it's, I think it's that consistency there. I think being able to also share, like, you know, I'm a very closed person. I can be ambiguous by nature. I would never consider myself a liar. I just don't necessarily give the whole picture most of the time. But that was training, right? So that's childhood trauma.
What a man. Military. Protect the people at all costs.
So, but I find like real security being in rooms with people who I can do that with, right? And know that someone said something the other day, they're like, you're not afraid that someone's going to use your story as a weapon or your emotions as a weapon.
That's trauma.
And
that's trauma.
So I think it's that. And then friends, like, I love hugging. I'm a touchy-feely person.
Me too. I just got into the habit of being like, are you a hugger?
Yeah.
Because before I was just bring it in. And I'm like, girl.
Post-COVID, you don't know. Like,
Listen,
people
probably was
There's
that.
a lot of things that you
Yeah.
think about now that you didn't think about for COVID. Everything you're saying to me is safety and vulnerability. So I think my definition of intimacy is like that safety and vulnerability. Even with, like, I think about the best partners that I've ever had are people that I feel like I can be completely open and honest with. Like, whatever thought pops in my head, I could text them and I don't feel like they would be...
They're not judging you.
Yeah. And that's the same way with friends. Like, intimacy with friends, it's like, who can I tell, like, my deepest, darkest secrets to?
Yeah.
And that, to me, is like, that means we have intimacy, because I feel safe and I feel like I can be vulnerable with this person. I can be a human with this person, and they're not going to judge me.
I appreciate that perspective. I really do. I wouldn't have thought of it like that, but I definitely never... I always just paired intimacy with anything having to do with sex, basically. For me, that was like interchangeable with sex, I guess. So, but I appreciate that because I crave and yearn that.
Yeah.
Like, even like with my besties, I love y'all. I don't feel like I can tell them everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, I guess I can. So it could be just a mental block in my head, but to me, like, that's what creates my deepest connections. That's what creates my chosen family. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's what helps me also evolve as a person, because I can just get this shit out of my head, ask questions, again, without being judged or without being taken around the road, given some...
Or be shamed.
Yeah, shame, feeling guilty afterwards, like, because I just want to know.
Yeah.
And in this world, you can't just kind of be ignorant without it coming with some kind of like
Some consequences,
repercussions.
yeah.
Yeah. It's automatically you're this and you're that and you're.
We like to label a lot.
Right. And it's just kind of like.
we categorize naturally. But
Can we just talk about it? It's like billions of people on this planet. So it's like billions of thought processes happening and billions of where we started thinking about these kinds of things. And I guess, when it comes to the people closest to me, I want to view intimacy in that level. So I like that a lot.
Maybe you just have to start with having that conversation. So like, I can be completely open and honest about my period with my friends. Yeah. And that to me, that's intimacy. When you're talking about like your body bleeding out or like you have to use 2 baby wipes because you're like your uterus is dying inside of you.
Put no baby wipes on your vagina.
Oh, thank you, doctor. But there's a lot going on down there.
Okay.
But like if I can text my friend.
Doctor, what? I can't put baby wipes on my vagina.
I can't do that.
Oh, the scent.
They're
the
not
chemicals.
scented.
Like,
I get fragrance free.
We're the
Listen, that's a
sensitive
whole-
one.
That's a new episode.
See,
I need to know.
If you can be comfortable, if I can build intimacy with my doctor, that where I can say, hey, I'm doing this.
Because the doctor's just trying to get me out of the office and get the
I
next
fire
one
my
in.
doctors because they can't be intimate with me.
Yeah, so you should be, that
You
intimacy should
because
be everywhere.
truly, from my perspective, I can't care for you properly. I can't give you the advice that is going to help, make something better if I don't know the full
don't know
gamut
what's
of
going
things. Like, I
on.
need to know all the things.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's intimacy to you, Doc? Outside of the medical
Outside of
perspective.
the clinic, but
Personal.
also, yeah.
Come on, Doc.
Personally,
let me sit.
So I will set the there's the flag again. Set the stage by saying I'm a very mentally. I have to be stimulated mentally.
Hell
if you can't make me think, if you can't challenge me, if you can't intrigue me in some capacity, literally it's never going to work. So for me, intimacy can be conversations. It can be just looking at each other. It could be eye contact. It could be
eye contact.
Yes, that deep eye contact.
yeah, like I know what you think.
Yeah, you know what's going on behind them eyes.
But I think when I think about in the space that I'm in today, I feel so innately connected to my partner because I feel like we've had conversations and shared things where I truly know him. He truly knows me. We don't judge one another. And it's like, you be you. I'll be me. I respect you for who you are as a human. You respect me for who I am as a human. You respect my journey. And you love me for that anyway. So for me, like that is all-encompassing intimacy. Is just being able to show up as who the hell I am, and know that I'm free to be that without being judged. And I think when you have that level of vulnerability with a partner, you have the ability to show up like you, not be judged. You're free. And in my space, like I don't think that you can have sex and be cerebral during the process because you're worried about all of these other things and enjoy it. Like there can't be true pleasure if you're not fully present and just able to be free and be who you are. So,
have you ever read Bell Hooks' All About Love? You basically
Bell Hooks.
Bell Hooks. You described her
Shout out Bell Hooks, Berea College.
definition of love is what you just talked about, that being invested in somebody else's development. When you're talking about you and your partner, like you share everything, you care about them and you want to see them grow and be better.
It's like you be great, even though it doesn't necessarily have to do with me. Like I'm okay being in the back of the room cheering for you.
I'm not going to take it personal or nothing.
Just being that invested in their development, that is Bell Hooks' definition of love. In the book
girl.
All About Love. It's awesome.
Put it on my list.
You can watch that on YouTube. You
Let's
can
go.
watch somebody reading Bell Hooks All About
Link in
Love
bio.
on YouTube.
So
after you get finished watching this.
as we're journeying, right? You and we've talked about pleasure, and I run into this conversation a lot. Like I'm gonna preface your guy friend with the anal sex.
Okay.
But I was watching Chicago, Shy, or whatever that show is. Like,
okay.
I don't usually watch it, and my guy on there is in love with a transgender woman, right? Is that how? Okay. And so they were having a conversation, and he was like, "I'm not gay, so what is this?" Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, I said, "Man, yeah, what what is that? Like, you know.
So does that have to be labeled?
Yeah,
I don't
Because I think that's one of the things that I see as a big difference between love and sex in America and in other countries. I think especially in the Eastern world, energy is a big thing that people are very aware of. And I think if most people are honest with themselves, they have been attracted to all kinds of people.
Yeah.
But we are taught in this world, in this country especially, that only one type of sexual attraction is normal or okay.
And accepted.
Accepted, which is why everything else has to be labeled as such. And that's something I horribly disagree with. It's like, I feel you love who you love. You're attracted to who you're attracted to. Because there might be just that one dude that walks in the room one day and you're like, ah.
That's how I feel about white people.
I mean,
One day there's a white person walking around.
that you're gonna be attracted
It's the
to.
one every now and then. I'm like, okay.
You just don't know. But I don't know. I just feel like we spend a lot of time labeling stuff and singling behaviors and people out. That's just not necessary.
Got you.
Labels
I
are
agree.
really about power, especially when you think about labels and
Thank you.
sexuality. They're all really rooted in power. So what you're basically, when somebody has that question about, well, you're a transgender woman and I'm a man, but I'm not gay, what does that look like? It's saying that there's a power dynamic here in relationships, which we do. In the U.S., we put a power dynamic. If you're the man, you're in power. And if you're the woman, you're not. And what his curiosity is really about who's in power in this relationship when we don't even have to talk about that. Why do
It
we
don't
have
even
to
gotta be
have a
that
power
way.
dynamic?
Let's just come together and get shit
It's
cracking.
you are who you are, I am who I am, and together we are a whole. So I think that conversation really just leads back to power. Because even in heterosexual relationships, there's an inherent power dynamic because we live in a patriarchal society.
Got you. So I was reading about milking the prostate, right? And so...
Can you explain more about that?
So you basically...
Asking for a friend.
So,
What is that?
well, right.
I don't have a prostate, so
least
break
for
it
our
down.
viewers.
so men have this prostate, right? And it's in, the anus. And so apparently if you massage it, you can climax from it.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay,
and so
yes.
kind of like massaging
regular shit.
Yeah. Oh, so anal pleasure.
Anal
I just
pleasure,
never heard
right?
milking the prostate.
It's called
before.
milking
like
the
it was
prostate.
a cow, like they're like free range.
Well, maybe.
Anyway, sorry.
But I mean, so it goes into that. But I think the stigma in men, right, related to anal pleasure, stigmatized. Well, you're gay, right? And so now all of a sudden we've put that in there. So again, men are stopped at really exploring pleasure. in
Y'all
that
missing
relationship
out.
as well.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I
definitely.
know, but
This is the same
I just
way
know that you missing out.
Yeah, like some men have never had an orgasm. They climax, but they're two different things.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's a whole different embodiment, right? And to set yourself that free and to be that free in a woman, right? Or your male counterpart. I mean, because realizing that men's orgasms are a little different, right? And you definitely have to let yourself free to have them. So it's just a thought, like, so having that conversation, I think, again, for your friend is one, probably finding men that are more like him, right? And that's a hard conversation.
How do you
to
even
weave
maneuver
into.
that?
Yeah.
It's a hard
Because
conversation
the
to weave into.
assumption there is only finding those people in the alphabet community. You know what I'm saying? In which that person does not identify as being a part of that community.
Yeah.
Which I'm not mad about that because I just feel it's a part of your body. And it is pleasure and it is something you enjoy. And the only reason that you can't outwardly enjoy it or explore it even more, or other folks explore it more, is because socialization, normalization, social contracts, white people, patriarchy, like all these things. It's just a bunch of things that are layered on top of each other to consistently suppress people into making other folks feel comfortable.
Well, hopefully,
and to keep that whole
through this
norm
conversation, we'll get to do that. Because I will say this: 95% of my male friends are heterosexual, and we have these conversations, right?
I love that.
Maybe we're unique in that space. We've all had different experiences in our lives.
But it's not just for any group of people.
Right.
So I love that.
You know,
talk
I
about
think it's happening more often than we think. I think sometimes we hold on to the stigma and we continue to propagate that.
Yeah.
Right? And I think
sometimes
so
not
it
even
stops.
knowing it.
Yeah. So I think when we stop it, then we start to see the world differently. Well, we're learning that the world is a little bit bigger than it is. Yeah. And I think at the same time, for those of us who are a bit more free than the other, we get to share. And when we teach, someone else can then say, man, this is an opportunity for me to let go of that shackle.
Yeah.
This is the lesson that I learned that's not true or doesn't have to be true anymore.
Yeah.
It starts with the individual, though, because pleasure is freedom. That freedom to say, I like this. This feels good to me. It doesn't matter what everybody else says should feel good to me or labels me if this feels good to me. Does it feel good to you? Yes, that's pleasure. And so...
And we're all different.
Starting
There's no
with
box
him,
for what that looks like.
Yeah, and for him to just accept that this is pleasurable for me. That is all that it means. It doesn't mean that I'm gay. It doesn't mean that I'm... It like, might mean that you're different, but it's period. Like self, when I think about myself, this is pleasurable. I like that. Moving on.
I would love it for it to just end like that for him.
Well, on that note, we got to end.
Oh, we got to end.
It ends like that for him in this podcast.
This podcast is how
for you. That was for you.
That was for you.
You out there. We don't know where you are, but
yeah, absolutely. Or whoever, because he's not the only one. It's for everybody.
He's definitely not the only one, and I just look forward to us being able to embrace ourselves and each other as just human beings that go through these experiences that don't need the labels, the categories.
Yeah.
The power dynamic.
Yeah, the thinking too much on it. Can it just be as simple as I love sex, like everywhere in all the holes? Like, it don't matter what my gender is or orientation. I said all the holes.
Look, I'm done with you. We're done. Do not put, not all the holes. Some holes are meant for...
Well, we're going to talk to Ashley about whether some holes can...
and what holes are safe to be used.
After the camera's cut.
Think of a few.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, my good people, in 10 seconds, is there anything you would like to say to those who are watching and are listening about what we're talking about and where we go next in this whole world of sex, intimacy?
Just go get it.
Okay, go get it.
Safely.
Explore.
I'm just gonna say, and learn and enjoy yourself. Let's get it. This is Common Conversations, safe sex. Talk about safe sex and intimacy and all those fun things. Hopefully you'll listen to the first episode. We've got more coming, and some of them will be interviews. Some of them will be more conversations like this. We hope that we're helping you have more intimacy in your conversations and finding where you're vulnerable and where you can find, I like the magic word for the day is pleasure. Let's get it, let's go, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
This program is supported by the Health Equity Innovation Hub at the University of Louisville. The views expressed are not necessarily those of the funder.